Friends, welcome back to the Messed Up Movies Podcast, a podcast celebrating movies and filmmakers that embrace the unhinged, the insane, the outrageous, the off-kilter, and all-around kind of messed up fun you can't take your eyes off of. I'm your host, Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and human face on a dog body,
Alex Dandino. Friends, let me ask you, do you have a drum kit in your extra bedroom?
This is fucking rude. What a goddamn horrible bitch way to start. I hope you are taken over by pods, and I get a partner that supports my rock and roll fantasies.
No. Friends, let me ask you, do you have social medias? Well, we're also on the social medias. We love social medias. We would love to be a part of your social medias. So come, love us, friend with us, come and get to know us. Messed Up Movies Podcast, and also Misfit Parade. We have cool stuff over there. You got to check it out. Sugar tits up for you.
This is a wild energy you're bringing to start. Oh, yeah. Messed Up Parade. Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon is very important. Please go over there, support the show. Cool stuff over there. We have our Black Mirror miniseries starting soon. Tales from the Crypt miniseries. Our patrons vote on a messed up movie every month. We would love to have your support over there. Messed Up Movies Podcast on Patreon. That'd be great. Misfit Parade has a YouTube where you can watch our short film. Alex was just discussing sugar tits. That would be great. Socials, share with friends, 5-star ratings, reviews, all the business. After I was just so rudely accosted, starting my morning, hoping to, talk about the wonders of cinema, being rudely assaulted by my friend because I still want to play my high school drum set. My partner's not supportive of that. That's fine. Have I ever felt more
it's not
like
the
it was
saddest
time?
thing I've ever heard. It's all good.
You know what? I just want us all to become pod people. I think I'm done with humans. Right? Today we are talking about 1978.
You would fit right in this particular film.
1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? Go ahead, Alex. Do your thing. Talk about the key ingredients to this movie.
Yes. So this is the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's technically a remake of the first Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956, from Don Siegel, starring Kevin McCarthy. One of my all-time favorite movies, to be honest with you.
Great.
Like I said, released in 1978. It was a Christmas movie, December 22nd. That's pretty fun for Christmas.
Well, like we saw this year with Nosferatu, people dig Christmas horror, man. It's a nice change of pace from the saccharine-ass holiday that is Christmas. Go ahead.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers is fascinating. Directed by Philip Kaufman, written by W.D. Richter, starring, check this shit out, Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, who's from Days of Heaven, Veronica Cartwright from The Birds and Alien, Jeff Goldblum, and one Leonard Nimoy.
Nimoy!
Come on, man.
Yeah, he's kind of like the 1970s version of Dr. Spock, right? Not the Star Trek Dr. Spock. This is the Spock they were searching for in that one movie. They were like, he's like, I'm good. Then they turned around, they're like, ugh, self-help guru? Ugh. Neither here nor there. Alex, I want to talk about this.
Yeah, man.
This was a remake of the classic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Body Snatchers has been often remade. There's a lot of versions of this tale. One of the things I think is so fun about Body Snatchers is that it feels like each generation remakes Body Snatchers to fit the kind of fears of the age, right? The first Body Snatchers was clearly addressing communism Red Scare, right?
Yeah.
This one is kind of more of a Big Brother thing, right? The hippies all get jobs and move into positions of authority. And they're like, this sucks, bro. And oh no, everyone is not seeing the truth and love, bro. So it's a little more hippy-dippy in this one. Mm-hmm. And then we go through I don't remember the great 80s one about like Reaganomics. I don't remember. There was one in the early 2000s with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig, which was just
real bad.
Like not good. I guess what we were afraid of as a society is that nu metal and Jinkos were going to win out. Right? Like we just looked around and we're like, is this culture worth calling ourselves humans anymore? It feels like we're primed for a new Body Snatchers that deals with social media and AI. Right? Like it's really right there. But why is this idea so evergreen, do you think?
I mean, every generation has its version of paranoia. Like, again, you said it best. 56 it was communism. The 78 one I think is a lot more about like you were saying, it's a lot about the end of counterculture and like rampant consumerism. I think from the 78 one, the 93 one, and even like the reason I'll get to the 2007 one in a second, but like the 78 and the 93 one, well, I have but I have a reason that that one doesn't work. The 78 one and the 93 one, I think, are mostly just about rampant consumerism. Consumerism is like such a huge thing, especially like the Body Snatchers one after everyone realized that communism wasn't coming to get us. Consumerism is this.
What? You could
thing.
actually include The Stuff as a Body Snatchers movie. If you go back and watch The Stuff, and it's just about consumerism and obesity, right? That like none of our food is real. That movie plays exactly like Body Snatchers.
I think 56 is so fascinating because it is a lot like, it's a lot of.
Do you think that one's better than this one? They're close to me. I think this one just has such better acting.
I think they're really close. Like, I like the 56 one just because of the simplicity it has. But
yeah,
like
the cast of this one is just
the cast one's incredible. The reason the 56 one edges a little bit is just Don Siegel directs the shit out of it. It's so good.
I will say this: this was also my first Donald Sutherland movie since he's passed, and it broke my heart. Like one of the most
so good,
cool, lovable, but charismatic and sexy. Like,
isn't it?
I love that man, and this to me might be my favorite performance of his. Like, I love that man. It really broke my heart today. Like, I was really sad rewatching it. Kevin McCarthy in the first one is incredible.
He's great.
He just doesn't have, as the kids would say, the riz of a Donald Sutherland. And he actually makes a very cool cameo in this one, returning to bang on the car. They're coming! They're already here!
Apparently he survived from 56, and he's been running around since then.
Yeah, and he stops the first pod people, I guess, because it's been another 20 years, only to then just get hit by a cab unceremoniously. The most San Francisco of tales. Yeah.
But no, I think that, like, 56 was a lot about, like, know your neighbor, and I think 78 and 93 is kind of less, like, 93 is probably a little bit more about consumerism. This one's a little more about the counterculture. The reason the 2007 one with Nicole Kidman doesn't work is because it is not about anything. And granted, we had a lot to be paranoid about. It's just about two hot
people being afraid that normals are coming.
We had plenty to be paranoid about in 2007.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. It was kind of the start of, like, rampant internet conspiracy theories post 9/11. Like, there was a lot of cuckoo shit going on.
There's things to talk about. I think that that's what's fascinating, and, like, you have to find someone who... This is what's interesting about Body Snatchers as a, like, subgenre of its own science fiction, is that you have to have a point for writing the movie. Like, writers who sit down to rewrite and remake Body Snatchers have to sit down and have a reason for redoing it. And, like, I gotta tell you, now, holy shit, it is 2025. There's no reason not to remake this movie now. Like, it's crazy no one has rewritten this.
Here's the hardest part about rewriting Body Snatchers now, as I imagine it. Like you said, in the 50s, it was more attacking the American dream, right? Communism's coming to turn us into robots, right? Communist robots, right? How dare they? But we believed in the American dream. We believed in the family. We believed in the neighborhood, right? That was a dream that people believed in back then. In the 70s one, you get this kind of counterculture hippie thing where people really believed that, like, free love and drugs would save the world. There was still, like, even though they were counterculture, there still felt like there was a belief in something. We don't believe in anything now. Like, AI's coming and we're all like, yeah, cool. They're taking all of our information. Yeah, cool. I read an article the other day that within 10 years, they think more people will just be fucking robots than getting married. And it's like, we want to be pod people now. Like, what do we care about now? Well, put us in our fucking Wall-E chairs. Give us our
Don't you think
sody.
that's kind of the beat? Don't you think that's kind of the beat, though, right there? Like, you do an inverse of Body Snatchers in a lot of ways. Like, we have essentially succumbed to this idea that the world has body snatched us already. Like,
I think
we are in a situation.
We are insanely cynical now and don't have, like, an overarching belief anymore. I think politics and all the shit that's been happening, COVID, everything, has really made us all just like, yeah, it's going to burn. Who fucking cares?
Well, and I think that's what's interesting about
I think
like,
that
this
lack
version.
of a belief, though, makes Body Snatchers hard to pull off now.
I'm sure it does. I think there's a way to do it, but I think that's what's interesting about the 78 one particularly is that there's nothing nefarious. Like this is what's always fascinating to me about Body Snatchers. This is why the stuff, I'm not sure I'd fit it in the subcategory, but that's why this is a little different. Body Snatchers to me, particularly this one, there's nothing nefarious about body snatching other than like, you can't go to sleep.
Other than like an entire fucking world of dead people and dusty husk and garbage trucks.
Okay, but they're just remaking them. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm saying is like, this is what's fascinating to me.
I'm just saying, imagine Andrea comes in and I'm sitting there with a tire pump fucking clearing you out. But then in the corner, I'm like, hey, there's a new one. He's the exact same. I didn't like upgrade him. It's just him, but without his little picadillos. Would she be upset or
what's fascinating? No. I'm not saying it's a good thing. Okay, look. To be very clear, that's not necessarily a good thing that these pod people are taking over.
I'm not even here to tell you it's not a good thing. I just want to have the discussion.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is I think what's interesting about this version is that at no point is it framed like none of the pod people, other than just like trying to make sure everyone's a pod person. Which is probably the most nefarious thing they do.
Other than whatever happened to Kevin McCarthy, like they were chasing his ass down. We don't get a lot of scenes of them actually catching.
Other than getting their numbers up, there's not really anything very nefarious. Like again, I love the opener in this movie because like you're just it's just these weird little condoms that float down from space.
Condoms float around, right? Like a fucking ocean in Florida, just condoms floating about. Waiting to land on you and ruin your life.
It's basically Fort Walton Beach came to the world. Like
they literally came and we died. There is something inherently interesting about because they're not shown as monstrous, right? Their monstrous trait is that they lack emotions, right? But then in the movie they drop like Jeff Goldblum in. Who's like this weird series of neuroses and things that you can't stand. Every scene he's in and talks, you're just like, no wonder he has no friends. Like, this guy sucks. This guy's awful. And you're like, is that what we're giving up? Like, raging narcissism about how it takes you 6 months to write a sentence? Like, do we need people? Is that, like, so even Donald Sutherland at the core of the movie, right? He's kind of this cool hippie guy, like him and, what's her name? They're smoking weed at one point, it seems like, having wine. Yeah, and you're like, they're cool. They're hanging out. But this is the thing. The movie starts with him. He's walking in with like he's the jackbooted thug of the state, where he's just like, it's a rat turd.
I was going to say, like...
maliciously trying to shut down a small business.
Truly one of my favorite things about like this version is Donald Sutherland is a health inspector. I'm like, whoa. Plum gig guy, real cool.
What I'm saying, he went from probably coolest kid at college to now he works in this fucking middling mid-manager job where he's like, I'm going to take revenge on a small French restaurant. This is the other thing. The movie 100% plays as if this is a personal grievance. Like, we never know if that's actually a rat turd or not. We don't know if that French dude hammers the caper. He goes outside and the cooks have fucking smashed a wine bottle on his car. And he just acts like this happens all the time. So he went from cool, we can save the world to now I am using the government to destroy people. So there's this inherent, he's already given up some of this like thing that made him the most human, right? When we see Leonard Nimoy, right? He's at his fucking book party, right? There's a woman who's like, it's not my husband. And he's like, no, it's cool. I have done a class in the park a couple times. Go home with your husband. His bullshit, fake self-help literally sends this woman to her demise, right? She will now be a pod. We watch the people of the party say, oh, isn't he great? And share looks because his stupidity, his false truth sends another one into a fucking pod. So the thing I love is that they are not so monstrous, right? Even at the end when Nimoy catches them, he's like, we're not here to hurt. We're not here to destroy, right? We're going to make you better. We're going to do this, right? There's an interesting element. It's like, well, you are destroying me, right? I see all the things in the back of the garbage truck like 10 times in the movie. You are fucking destroying me. And I'm not saying that my depression and misery and, anxieties are good. But if you take them out, I'm not sure there's much left beyond a bulbous body. You know what I mean? So there is this weird, as you watch it, you're like, it's not the worst thing I've ever. That's the weird thing, is that you kind of,
again,
and maybe that's the element of today's society that we'd log on to, which is we've all kind of willingly potted ourselves. So you're just like, is this the, like, there are scenes in this movie, like at the end when you see them all carrying pods to the car and they're just working in unison. They're a unified organism that has one purpose, which is to help the rest of the species, which is kind of what the hippies' whole bullshit reasoning was, right? You watch their efficiencies and you're like, compare that to crime, robbery, war. Like,
I think what's interesting about this version of Body Snatchers particularly is the general lack of, this isn't the right way to put it, but this is the only way I know. Like, this is it's the general lack of threat. Like, no one is trying to, other than just like, oh, let's clean up after, your husk is done. Like, it's just a coordinated effort to keep the streets clean. Like, so there's not just like bean pods everywhere. Like, it is a really specific thing.
We might be here to fucking take you over and destroy your society, but we're not litter bugs. That is not
litter
acceptable.
Bugs.
Yeah, San Francisco's gotten a little gross, guy.
It's a really fascinating thing, especially because it takes place in San Francisco. Like, San Francisco, which was like mecca of counterculture in the 60s. Yeah. The whole idea that this is the like ground zero for pod people, is hilarious, but also just it is a really specific thing for the time period. Mm-hmm. And not only that, like, you cast actors who I always like, again, this cast is ridiculously stacked. The thing that I love about this version of Body Snatchers too is, look, and we briefly brought up Donald Sutherland. Donald Sutherland, to me, one, he's just an incredible actor.
One of the best.
Not a traditional looking leading man.
Mm-hmm. But still hot as hell, dude.
But still hot as hell, and everyone in this movie is still like hot as hell for that time period. Something about all the characters, all the actors in this movie who have like your main core cast are hot as hell as 70s actors. Like, dude, it is like hardcore counterculture actors though. Like, you have the main dude from MASH, mm-hmm. a young Jeff Goldblum fucking Spock. As Spock,
also,
basically.
Spock is the guy on Star Trek who's always like the giant nerd who's like, peace and do things the right way. Like, Star Trek is an inherently utopian science fiction kind of story, right? For that guy to be the emissary, right? The one pod voice we get by the end is kind of like, you'll just go to sleep and you'll... Like, this is the other thing. Think about this movie. All we do, they don't come and like rip us apart and crawl into us, right? This isn't like a xenomorph, raping our face and putting eggs in our belly that'll then explode us like a piñata.
No,
just go to sleep, man. Go to sleep and wake up without all of these fucking cares and trifles.
Go to sleep and you'll feel better. You're like, whoa. Yeah, cool. That's also like the really cool metaphor of like, how many times, you're a dad, I'm a dad, but also like working in general. Like, like when the night falls, you're like, oh my God, finally all the problems are gone. Also, when I go to bed, no one will talk to me. Like, there's something like so. I was watching this last night and I was like, oh my God, I'd be so okay right now if I was a pod person. Just wake up like,
dude, I'm telling you, I watched this movie and I was like, is this like
not that bad?
10% worse? Like, maybe a little? Like, we probably aren't going to, like, we're going to lose like the HBO real sex culture. Like, we're not going to do weird sex stuff to each other. That might be the only thing I miss, right?
Yeah,
maybe
like
overeating,
like,
right?
All right, so I'll never overeat again, and I'll, like, kind of not feel like porn is worth my time.
Yeah, I'm going to get at least 10,000 steps a day while I'm carrying pods. Like
10,000 steps.
This ain't bad.
I'll get a workout. I'll eat right. Like, maybe the counterculture was not onto something. Maybe I should have just pod personed.
Yeah, I was just like that is the beautiful, because the original movie, the terror is more palpable. That movie felt like it thought we were really losing something important. Mm-hmm. In this one, it's kind of just like, why are you raging against the machine?
Well, I think that's what's so fascinating
why
about
are you
that
so
paranoia.
against the big brother government thing when it's done right and you stop fighting? Look at how easy it is. So I think the dichotomy of realities makes this one more impactful to me than the original.
I think the paranoia of otherness is what's so good about this one, as opposed to the original one, which is just like, the metaphor is like so just like in your face. Hey, guess what? Communists are bad.
It's very propaganda-y. Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, look, that's America. That's Don Siegel in the 50s. Like, hey, I'm not going to...
You don't want to go kick homeless people? Communism! It's like, yeah. It is funny to watch the 70s one and be like, all of our worst uncles, the guys you don't want to sit next to at Thanksgiving conversationally, just going home and just fucking beating their meat, to the idea of the fucking lawless hippie San Francisco just being made in their fashion, right? This real kind of conservative, jackbooted society.
And I mean, like, look, you and I have said many times on the we've railed often about hippies on this show. Like, I'm not saying, as long as they don't bother me, I don't bother with hippies.
My biggest things with hippies is just the arrogance, the terrible music, and the lack of hygiene. That's it.
Yeah,
I love hacky sack, dude. I was a sacker once myself, dude. I'm even down for that. It's the terrible music that you tell me matters.
If you told me that
the arrogance,
if you told me the pod people took over, and that meant the end of Fish, I'd be like, go for it. I'm good. That's fine.
Well, hippies were kind of the first, like, we're doing our own research people, which really just means someone told you something, and you're like, I want that to be true. Now I'm going to say, hey, man, have you done your own research? And it's like,
again,
what? You're not a scientist. You don't know jack shit. You're in the park just smoking a bong. That's not research.
If you told me that there were no more, if you told me that this would result in no more jam bands, I'd be like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Do we need Fish?
Totally fine.
What do we rather have in our world? Fish and Dave Matthews, or no more war, famine, childhood murder?
Literally all the things they sing about all the time.
Yeah. Does Dave Matthews sing a lot about murdering children? It wouldn't surprise me. Knowing his fans, the fucking
no more
worst. Here's
Bono.
a true story. I was at a concert. I was at a heavy metal concert this summer, right? For this Viking metal band that I love. This is fucking crazy. Amon Amarth, right? And I'm ordering giant beers. I'm always double fisting. And the guy pops them for me, and he's like, you got to drink them fast so they'll go flat and get warm. I was like, yeah, all right, I'll handle that. And he goes, it sucks. You know why we can't have closed beers anymore? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, yeah, we had a concert, and people were fucking whipping the closed beers around and hurting people. And I go, oh, man, that sucks. Like, what a waste of fucking $10, $12 beer. And he goes, yeah, you'll never guess which concert. And I was like, I don't know, man. Motley Crue came back and
Swift.
The Boomers. And he goes, Dave Matthews Band. Dave Matthews had a concert, and the fucking bums started whipping $12 beers around, and someone got hurt. And so now this venue, or maybe this was something that didn't happen here, but happened, and now all the venues across the country open beers because of Dave Matthews Band. Neither here nor there. If that's the world we live in, if you're telling me I live in Dave Matthews Society or pod people, I'm taking pod people. We're not here to rail against Dave Matthews again, but I will. Neither here nor there.
Ants marching? Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to talk about the pod people as a monster and a society. I always forget this movie opens with the beach in Florida floating condom opening.
Mm-hmm.
So these creatures seemingly have decimated the entire planet they're on. Can choose to just literally float into space, survive the vacuum of space, and just happen to end up here. The opening of this movie is incredible, right? Where they the camera pans down to the bay behind the Golden Gate Bridge. It's raining. All of a sudden, the flowers are glistening as the rain is on them. These little the thing where it branches out and veins out on the plants. So fucking awesome. Then the little pink flowers come. Next thing you know, we see little fucking kids and what looks like Robert Duvall as a priest swinging.
It is Robert Duvall as a priest.
Okay, because that blew my mind. I was like, that can't be Robert Duvall because he literally never comes back in the movie. So that's another incredible world-class actor who's just in it for 5 seconds. He's a priest on a swing with the child, which, again, is another thing that the pod people are trying to get rid of in society.
Not great, but also, I'm like, pod people, this is your first guy right here.
Do you think he sees that teacher in the class picking flowers, and he's like, God, can they just get out of here so I can boo Radley, this kid in the bushes? Unbelievable.
And then the pod people are like, hang on, we got a problem with this. Like, okay, cool, I'll take that.
The pods are literally sitting there, and they're like, dear God, get someone over to that park. Stat, we got to pod this priest.
It's so funny you bring up this Robert Duvall thing, because I swear to God, I paused the movie and rewound
I couldn't believe it, because I was like, he's never been in this movie in my brain. There's no way that's the great Robert Duvall.
I paused it, rewound it, watched it again. I'm like, that's definitely Robert Duvall. And then I went online. I was like, holy
shit! Is that
shit!
the smallest, most trivial casting for an Academy Award level actor of all time? Just possibly creepy.
No
priest
lines,
that we don't
just
address.
like no lines, just on a swing, and then cut to his POV on a swing, and you're just like, what is going on? And what?
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm in. I'm here.
It's like, well, you got a great actor, and any priest on a swing is inherently creepy. It's not this.
Isn't that just like the greatest?
Horrifying.
Isn't that like one of the greatest like stunt castings ever? You're like, guess what? Robert Duvall's in this movie. Psych, not.
See, everyone talks about how cool it was to bring Drew Barrymore in and kill her, right? This is real bravery. Bring in the Robert Duvall, and then just have him be maybe a criminal priest swinging for 5 seconds.
Probably just as.
But the idea. So let's talk about some of their society and powers. What happens if the pod people, because we see them as intergalactic condoms, what happens if they just like, land on a chihuahua? Is this like a dog society? Do we get like the Isle of Dogs version of this? Are they always plants?
Well, we find out later.
Yeah. Is there a movie of it where we just get giant bulbous chihuahuas trying to birth? Like if they become dogs, do they then take us over, or do they just take over, I don't know, cows and herbivores? That was a big question this movie asked me, because they didn't come down as intergalactic seed pods. So that was a bit like, okay, what is the limit of their transformation powers, do you think? We do see specifically that they can take inhuman forms, as the dog takes over the fucking, what is it? The moon shadow guy in the park. It's like, this is what you get for playing Cat Stevens while I'm trying to smash a Euro on my lunch break. This bum in a sweater, and his dog just gets his face and his beard.
I mean, okay, again, I don't know about you. To me, I was just like, is this like, this is really to stick it to the hippies a little bit. You're just like, you know what? If you're going to be an annoying pain in the ass, you're going to be a dog for the rest of this.
Yeah. Can you quit fucking jamming in the park? I have 40 minutes for break. I'm miserable. I'm trying to shut down a French restaurant. That was awesome. But we see they can transform. What are the boundaries of their powers?
I don't know. I mean,
because they go to an alien society where presumably everyone was a condom jellyfish thing. They take over and then run and have to reboot society.
Do you think they're just... Yeah, I mean, like, are they just...
Because they genetically are rewriting to be plants, right?
Are they just intergalactic Walmart? Like, they just like, hey, we'll come in and do it for $5 cheaper, Like,
yeah, it's like a more focused version of the creature from The Thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're genetically... Because they start as plants, but then cross over to humans. Those are two separate kingdoms on the classification chart, right? These are two very different things, animals and plants. They get a dog. Do they eventually take over all life or just the dominant life? I'm guessing all.
I'm assuming all. Like, I'm assuming the reason it's bad is it's like an actual infestation.
Yeah, are they going to take over ants and cockroaches? We don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's just little teeny tiny pods. Are they getting in the ocean and doing like pod orcas and shit? Is that what happened in the movie Orca, and that's why it knew to do fucking Free Willy flips when it was blowing up towns? I don't know.
Are you saying this is a sequel to Orca?
Prequel, baby.
Prequel. When did Orca come out?
You just go. Well, I'm saying in movie timelines.
You know what? Forget it. Never mind.
Yeah, it just we're asking dumb questions for dumb movies. We don't need to do that.
Why am I asking that dumb question?
Yeah, Orca. Yeah, it's way more believable. The orc just does the people's eyebrow and starts battling fishermen on his own. That's fine. Yeah. Is that my boy?
Okay, I forgot. Okay, I did look this up. So Robert Duvall was just in San Francisco during the time of filming, and had worked with Philip Kaufman, and he sat in and did the scene for free. That's it. That was it. He was around.
That's just fucking great. Like that's just a great thing in movies. When you find those like little gems.
The coolest thing when you're just like there. Hey, I'll do it. I don't care.
I love it. All right, back to the pod people.
Yeah.
One of the best scenes in the movie to me. So this lady's already essentially married to a pod person, right? Just a guy with headphones watching Warriors games and chilling. Back when the Warriors sucked too. So good for him. Way to represent. She notices her husband's being weird, right? She tries to tell Donald Sutherland it's not him, blah, blah, blah. He's like, it's fine. He's kind of a loser anyways. He's clearly trying to bang her. This has been a thing that's been going on for a long time, and he's always taking shots, right? When she comes into work the next day and she's like, it's not him. I followed him around. He's a doctor. He was having meetings with people that clearly can't afford him, right? Like he was meeting normals at random places around town, and it was gross. Yeah. That scene where she's walking through San Francisco, it's one of those beautiful things when image and story kind of perfectly meld, where she's like, and everyone who looked at me, I could tell all of a sudden overnight San Francisco, the city had changed, right? Something was different. And that kind of spinning camera of just imagine being on a crowded city and immediately realizing, oh no, I'm the only one who knows what's happening. Everyone else has changed and is now a source of fear. That scene sells this so incredibly.
Yeah. I think that Brooke Adams and Donald Sutherland particularly, like, because Jeff Goldblum and Veronica Cartwright, like, Veronica Cartwright is like the poster child for like 70s films about someone who's just freaking out constantly. Like, she just has that great face for it.
Well, also we watch her and she's just in the fucking mud house, and there's just this like massive hairy dude. Yeah. He's like, hey, turn the music off and rub me. And you're like, if I were her, I'd be jumping face first into every bush in San Francisco.
Yeah, it would get I would be like, I need to pod now. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
And the real indignity of the movie is she's the last one left. I'd be like, oh, God, no. I'd be like, where can I fucking put my head to put this nightmare to rest?
I really like that. Like, I think, because like the paranoia thing is really important, I think. Especially like the undercurrent, particularly, because you can't do it the whole movie. And that I think is like sort of the problem. Well, not the problem, but that's sort of the counterbalance to Jeff Goldblum and Veronica Cartwright, because they're just so on the surface the whole time. And
they're all the way up, yeah, for sure.
Brooke Adams and Donald Sutherland are just like the concept of just trying to stay awake. And again, this is the Donald Sutherland performance that I think is just fucking brilliant through this whole movie, is he's just trying to stay awake. So you can see this undercurrent of just like, and you know, when you're a parent, you know what the look in your face is, that undercurrent of just tired. Like that's your baseline emotion.
Yeah.
And then everything
I definitely
else
at the age I would be a pod person immediately. If I saw a couch, I'm going out quick.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm going to go to bed. Whoa. If you go to bed, you'll be, listen.
It's middle-aged Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's like, we can't sleep. We got so much to live for. And I'm like, or I can get this nap in.
Listen, I could either be grumpy now, or I'll wake up a pod person and you'll like me.
Yeah,
how about that?
That's why Nightmare on Elm Street doesn't work with middle-aged people, because you'd be like, all right, fucking stab me if you're going to. I need to rest. Like, if you're going to kill me, Freddy, get it over with. Like, I'd wake up in his boiler room and be like, this is bullshit. I'm just going to curl up in a dream blanket. If you're going to get me, dude. I'm not here to fucking run around and be scared. Yeah. Do what you... Oh, no, I don't have to clock in on Monday for my underpaid job with my dipshit boss. Oh, no, Frederick.
Oh, no, Freddy, no. Oh, no, Fred, don't do it.
Yeah,
oh.
I'm over there lifting my shirt up like, here, stab right here. No, but... There is something to, like, there's that great scene when they're all in the house and Donald Sutherland just sits down outside and falls asleep, right? He's been drinking wine and shit. And we see the birthing of that Donald Sutherland pod creature,
the
which
little
is
baby.
fucking rad.
Okay, that is like such a great creature moment. Oh my God, it's so cool. Like,
it's incredible. Because we get this one where it looks like the giant plant that almost looks like a vagina with a cresting, like, baby head. If you know, you know. You've been in those rooms. But then all of a sudden it's just kind of like the head plant. And we see, because then he gets woken up and we see there's like 5 of them. And he's like, wake up everyone in the house. So they're psychically like psychic Bluetooth siphoning anyone in the vicinity, right? Like they're getting everyone, right? There's the scene where he first finds that Brooke Adams has been caught by her husband, right? Who's now just watching clocks, right? He's really embracing that middle-aged fucking Fox News viewer guy. He's just like, I watch newscasts that has like 8 clocks behind it. Real fucking hard-hitting fact stuff. And then he wakes her up, right? And she's like, looks like she's a little ashier, like she's kind of drained. Even at the end when we finally see her got, and her face fucking collapses, and then like the young naked version of her pops up, and she's like, psych, this was great. Everything you believe in and tried is stupid. Dude, that scene though, when he's holding her, because this is when he's holding her, and there's this real sadness. Like, it's over. They pretty much know it's over. Nimoy's already tried to grab him. They're on the run. They're trying to blend into society and like immediately get confronted by the dog face moon shadow guy. And so they dip. And it's like, that's like, they can't even blend in for 5 minutes, right? They are out in this field, this like junky field by the side of a junky fucking port. And he's just like, I love you. I love you. And he's
Also,
trying
by
to
the
say
way,
it. And it's the pitifulness of it. It's that moment to me might be the most important impact moment of the movie. Because it's just him holding her and he's just saying, I love you. And you're like, it's so meaningless. It's so trite. It's such a human thing. But that's what makes us, right? Is that little bit of hope in the face of overwhelming despair. That's what separates us from these fucking creatures. So as pitiful as it seems in the moment, it's the most human thing. It's this beautiful, impotent moment.
What I thought was so interesting about that moment particularly was she said it when they were in the lab. She says, I love you, Matthew, in the lab, and he does not say it back. I'm like, oh shit, is he already a pod person? Are they like
then she
dropping a
doesn't
dime?
later, right?
And
so they
she-
never say it to each other. They
never say it to each other.
They never
face to face,
exchange.
just
They'll
do that
say it to
moment.
each other,
Yeah.
but they don't exchange. Because Donald
But,
Sutherland's like, well, yeah, I want to smash, but also, I got to play the field. You never know when I got to go crush a caper somewhere, dude. But there, again, I think the face of this, making
I did like that though.
unrequited love an important thing that has to be said aloud. That like them declaring their love will matter when all of this is fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
That's what we're really fighting for. Not society, not that, right? That human touch and connection. And it does immediately make it horrifying when she turns. And it's just like, it's fine. It doesn't hurt at all, man. It'll be cool. We've seen trucks loading up with all of these other pods. They're going everywhere. Like, society will last maybe a year. Maybe. Like, they're franchising out. And we clearly as a species don't have enough togetherness to believe each other, to fight for each other. But when it all comes down, we want to feel love, right? We want a connection with another person that we choose, not this kind of hive mind that the Body Snatchers are selling. I thought that was a really important moment in this movie. It is a grandiose love gesture, but that the movie treats it as those moments are, right? It's not some swelling orchestral importance. It's just like I get it. But none of that matters. Nothing about us matters, right? We are transient.
I think again that's something that I like about 70s filmmaking is the movies that don't feel like, and again, this is a big sci-fi movie. But the movies that feel a little more personal don't have these huge grandiose gestures. They make it very real and like there's something very, it's like this effect of
that's why
Easy
the
Rider and
70s
all
might
these
be
other
the
movies.
best decade of movies. Is because
I
that
agree.
old
Like-
studio veneer had started to crack, and we're getting these
so
grittier.
I think
stories
again with
coming
that
from.
whole concept of like, with all these movies that were coming out that were a little more low budget, like you had to be. I think this is why the Donald Sutherland of it all is so great. Is like you had to be just a killer actor to sell this. And
Well, also, this movie's not as
That's what
good
it
if
is,
you
man.
have like a Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise in it, right? Great actors, but they don't look like a normal person. Like if they were pod people or trying to not be around normal people, that's the Nicole Kidman, Daniel Craig problem. Is you're like, yeah, I get it. Like you guys see us and you're like, ew, what are those things?
I think that's the difference between. Well, I think that's the difference between like doing this as like a major studio movie, which is what the 2007 version is, versus the 56 version, which was originally like a B movie. This one obviously had a little more clout. They had great actors in it and that kind of thing.
I mean, it
But
has
Philip
a
Kaufman-
scale and enormity. You can't just like rip this out with your buddies. Yeah.
No, but like, I mean, Philip Kaufman wasn't a huge director or anything like that. It wasn't like Don Siegel coming back to do Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I think what's interesting is it still has that feel of an indie feature, even though it's definitely not. But it has that vibe, and not just because it's the 70s either. It has just like there's something about the extra love that got taken into it, and I think that if you were going to remake it now, besides it needing to just have a great script, has to be more like an more like an independent film.
Yeah, well, it just the world feels real. It feels very
It has
lived
to
in,
feel
right?
real.
Like
Yeah.
when we see Donald Sutherland, like, I'm going to go call the cops because I'm part of the government and these other people will protect me. I'm one of them, and they don't. It's one of those, like, super stupid movie character decisions. Like, why are you know the cops aren't what? Like, you've gone to the authorities like 3 times. Like, the mayor will help. The cops will help. But when he calls and it's like, how did you know my name? What? No one knows my name. What? Like, when Brad Pitt's saying, you don't know who I am. It's like, everyone knows who Brad Pitt is if he works in town hall, dude. Like, what are you talking about? But there's a belief in the systems, right? He feels like a real civil servant. Like, he had that ability to look like an everyman, which is important, right? We don't cast a lot of normal looking people in movies very often anymore, right?
Yeah.
And now as we get more into like Instagram influencer culture, that might really be something that rarely happens ever again. But I think that's the thing, the authenticity, right? Him looking at his own pod person and crushing its fucking head in. Them looking at the Jeff Goldblum unfinished pod for the first time. Like, these moments of horror are great. They're beautiful. The effects and the creature work in this are insane. But it's those moments of him just like, I saved her. I'm going to go back and call the cops on this guy. If I put him in jail, I'll be able to bang his girlfriend easier. What? Like, that feels like real person messiness. You know what I mean? And that, to me, is where the real scare is. It's fun to watch him do the raid on the fucking facility where they're making pods, right? It's scary to watch them carrying pods with trucks to go to the next town and the next. Those interpersonal things, man. That is where this movie soars above all the other Body Snatchers to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the interconnectivity, particularly in this one, that makes it just, again, it's hard to edge out Don Siegel, but this does just because of how like its proximity to our more like relevant society.
Yeah, it stood on the shoulder of giants and added layers that made this one more to me, right?
Agreed.
And even at the end when he's running, the last man, he's running and running and he hides under the dock, and they're just like, he can't stay awake forever. And you're just like, yeah, man, that's what life feels like to us, right? We're trying to stay awake. We're trying to stay knowledgeable. We're trying to care about society. But then, you know, your 4th, 5th election, you're like, you know, maybe everyone sucks. Maybe nothing's ever going to get better. Maybe I don't believe in this shit anymore. Maybe I just want things to be easy for once. That dread that saturates the end of the movie is so authentic, right? Because we all feel that way. Like, we've even talked on this episode that if I gotta go down, this is definitely a reasonable apocalypse to me. Like, this is one I wouldn't be that mad at. And that, to me, is where I think that's what makes this a horror classic, right? Like, of course I don't want to get eaten by fucking running full-speed zombies. This one, you really are confronting, like, what does it mean to be a human and be alive in the world? Does being a part of society and an individual, has that gotten me where I want to go? I don't know, man. It takes utopian sci-fi ideals and really fucking.
That's what it is. It's the inversion of you. It's the inversion of that utopia. Is like, has it helped that I've been an individualistic person, or do I need to join the crowd?
Yeah, spoiler alert: not much. Almost zero.
But that's the whole concept of. That's the whole concept of, again, like, this particular sci-fi is about the inversion of a utopia. Like, a utopia where everyone is working together to do a thing at the expense.
All the problems of the world will disappear.
All the problems of the world disappear, but you don't get to be, like, yourself anymore, essentially.
Yeah, what we're fighting for is the messy bad stuff that makes us human. Yeah. So we can have those little moments of saying I love you to someone else's girlfriend. And it's a closer battle than you think, right? That's what makes it work. All right, Alex, what is the most messed up moment in Invasion of the Body Snatchers to you?
Ooh, man-faced dog. I am telling you, I've never laughed harder. Here's the thing. I've never laughed harder in a movie than when the man-faced dog runs up on Brooke Agams and she screams. I'm like, how is it that none of the other pod people are like, oh, shit, that one went wrong. That was bad. We fucked up.
Because the pod people don't body shame. They're very body positive. They're like, oh, that good choice, Glar. Okay, he's always been a little bit on the edge for a pod person. Not bad.
How about that?
Yeah, he's like, well, I started taking over that fucking Cat Stevens cover guy. And then I was just like,
his dog
ugh.
was so much cooler.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going Dog Stevens. That's what I'm doing. And it's wild. It's a great image.
We have a guy who experiments. Sorry about that.
In every society, there's one fucking
There's always
free
one.
spirit.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. We just keep on the peace train. It's fine.
We've tried so hard.
If I had to pick a most messed up moment in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, to me, without a doubt, it is the last scene of our lady running through. She's like, oh, I lost you. You're here. And Donald Sutherland, who's been walking around town, we think he's blending. We saw him hiding, and we're like, okay, he'll be fine. They even say he can't sleep forever, but we're like, he can. He's the lead of our movie. When she calls out to him, and this guy who we've seen, this counterculture legend, Donald Sutherland, points at her and that fucking hideous sound they make, and she just starts screaming, no! That is one of the greatest final moments of a film, let alone horror film, of all time. The absolute crushing despair. I love horror movies that end with the monsters winning. Right? That sometimes you can't defeat everything, right? We as a people are not set up to defeat these things, and we watch Donald Sutherland consumed, right? All of our hopes are out the window as he points at us, the audience, and screams in our face as the camera pushes in on him. And we cut to dead, silent credits. Yep. And are forced to sit with the weight of, oh man, humans aren't going to make it.
I think beyond that, too, this is actually the watching that was awesome. Like, again, like every time I get to see that scene, I'm just like, God, dude, this is such a great ending to a movie.
It's fucking incredible.
What struck me this time, though, is the internet has overtaken that bit, and there's an entire generation of kids who use that, like, GIF, meme, whatever you want it, whatever it is, and have no idea what it's from. And that is like the weirdest part of this. Yeah, this pod person thing.
It's become a stand-in for just angry boomers.
It's bizarre.
Which is kind of weird. Donald Sutherland eventually became an elder boomer fucking meme.
It's very strange. Like, again,
it is weird, dude. And again,
the recontextualization of that is so bizarre to me.
So bizarre.
But
you know what's really scary about watching it today is he hides under the dock. We watch him going around to his lab, living like his normal life. And he just looks up from a paper. And we take that as a sign of, oh, he's still human. Yeah. The fact that we as an audience the first time couldn't tell that he had switched, that we still wrote in humanity to him, is exactly the perfect condensing of what makes this work. This is why we remake this movie every generation.
Yeah.
It's fucking wonderful. Is it wilder when we see the pod people being born and he caves his own face in with a hoe? Yes, that is a wild moment. But it doesn't hit the depths of despair and iconic nature of this finale at all.
I think what's crazy still, again, also, Veronica Cartwright is the last human in San Francisco. No one else could tell she wasn't a pod person.
Dude,
that woman wears emotion on her face
all day. Go back and just watch those mud tubs. That woman's been in the trenches for years. She is like Arnold in Predator. She has already faced down the nightmares and is ready to fucking fight. Okay, I'm not convinced she's not going to still live.
You're right. She has seen some terrible things. She can button it up. I get it. Okay.
When the pods condom their way out of our atmosphere to the next planet, she'll just pop up from the mud like Arnold and howl, the last human on Earth. She's ready, dude. She has seen some shit. That's it for Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Truly one of the greatest films of all time. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to Misfit Parade over there for all the fun stuff. We're doing video versions of the pod. Make sure on all the social media, you guys are getting our TikToks, clips, reels, all that shit. Share them with your friends. That's a great way to introduce them to the new version of the show. Send your friends messages, man. Let them know we're working hard over here. The Patreon, Messed Up Movies Podcast on Patreon. So much more fun stuff over there. We're trying to build a righteous community of pod listeners so that we can overtake the internet. So help us out on these causes, guys. We'll see you Friday for another filmmaker interview.